Well, hello, everybody. This is Tim Green with Rattle Magazine. Welcome to the Rattlecast. We're the biggest freewheeling live stream poetry podcast on the planet, in your ears, not on your laptops. Our guest for episode number 315 is Crystal Simone Smith. She'll be with us in a few minutes, but before we begin, I should say that Rattle is a publication of the Rattle Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit working to promote the practice of poetry. We've been in continuous publication since 1995 and are unaffiliated with any other organization. We just do all of this because we love poetry, and I know you do too, so please do click on that like button and share. Make sure you're subscribed. Ring the bell for notification. Leave reviews on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you're listening to this after the fact. There's so many podcasting catchers, I don't even know where it airs, but if you're airing it, listening it somewhere, make sure you leave a review. That helps other people find it, and that's what helps poetry stay alive. Now we're going to start like we always do with our Poets Respond poet, a poem about current events. And Patrick Roland is here talking about his poem, Just Temporary, which was featured on Sunday. Hey, Patrick, how you doing?
Great. Glad to be here.
Yeah, definitely. My pleasure to have you. This is one of the things we talked about frequently is we have this sort of classic Rattle poem, we like to call it, which is the down-to-earth, straightforward narrative from the heart. And that's one of those. So I always love the chance to get to find one of those poems, which used to be more common in publishing, but now are a little harder to find. And it's a really powerful one. Tell us how the poem came to happen. How did the news inspire this one?
I read some articles about the long lines of furloughed government employees and listened to some interviews, and it just kind of brought back those memories of being a kid waiting in similar lines, and the idea of mom and dad just saying, hey, this is only temporary. You don't have to hide your face. There's nothing going on here. Because my dad was a coal miner, mom was a tax collector, and back then he was laid off from the coal mines all the time, or they went on strike all the time. And to make ends meet, the food banks were there to help out. But as a kid, you didn't necessarily want to be in that line or be seen in the line. And I kind of got that feeling from a lot of the people they were interviewing on the news who had never been in a line like that before, but the paychecks just weren't coming and they needed something to help out.
Yeah. It's one of those things. A friend of mine, works in Washington, D.C., for the government. And I was talking to him on the phone, and I forgot about the government shutdown and the fact that he hasn't gotten a paycheck for 3 weeks now. And what that must be like. And he said that he manages a staff, and he said that the first hour or two of his day is like consoling people and telling them it's going to be okay as they start to figure out how to make ends meet and get their families fed. It's really, really difficult.
Yeah. The idea of temporary kind of evaporates when it comes to family and food on the table and canned goods in the cabinets.
Yeah, definitely. Well, why don't you go ahead and read this poem, Patrick?
Sure. Just temporary. Mom says it won't take long. Dad stares at cracked acorns on the ground. I do not belong here. The line is too long to stand out, too short to disappear. Everything smells like old birdseed. Even the packs of almonds have sparrows on them. Here's your bag. Don't tear it. You won't get another. Only volunteers speak. The rest of us are swallowed by silence. A factory of bodies, no time card to punch. There are no instructions, but we all march to routine. One step to the right, choose a stale loaf. One step to the left, grab a rusted can of beans. Shuffle forward, 2 cans of Spam. I peek back at the line, a row of flightless birds. Too frail to be buzzards, too guilty to be hawks. Mom and Dad talk about calories and preservatives. Can calories convert into dollar bills? We huddle, a murder of pity. Only temporary, Mom says. Temporary. Somewhere between April and Dad's next job. The minute hand, a blade pressed to my hope. Hey kid, you want a purple lollipop? Grape is my favorite, so I waddle faster. This line winds through a gutted bank vault. Half unwrapped, the sucker glints yellow.
Yeah, just powerful poem. Thanks so much for sharing that, Patrick. Really wonderful, and glad to have you here. Glad you could join us.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, once again, that was Patrick Roland with yesterday's poem on Rattle.com, Just Temporary. That was part of the Poets Response series, which we've been doing for over 10 years now. If you've got any poems about current events that you would like to share, about anything happened in the last week from when the poem was written, submit those by Friday night. And then we'll submit that, or we'll choose one to publish every Sunday. And to do that, all you have to do is go to rattle.com. Up in the menu, find under contents, find Poets Respond. The submission portal is there. Just get them in by midnight every Friday night. And if you don't get those poems by email, just sign up at the bottom of any page on rattle.com for our daily poem by email. Now we're going to take a quick break and go to our main guest. So sit tight and we'll be right back with a lot more poetry. And we're back. Thanks for your patience. Like I said, today's guest is Crystal Simone Smith. Crystal is president of the Haiku Society of America and author of Runagate, Songs of the Freedom Bound, and Dark Testament. Her collection of haiku, Ebbing Shore, won the Haiku Foundation Touchstone Distinguished Book Award. She teaches in the Thompson Writing Program at Duke University. And here she is, Crystal Simone Smith. Hey, Crystal, how you doing?
Hey, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to have you on. You know, we're big fans of haiku here. And, you know, and you're doing really wonderful things with haiku. From Ebbing Shore was a great book. I found it at a random library once. I remember years ago, and you know, sitting through. And one of the wonderful things about haiku is you can sit through and read and enjoy, and get so much out of it in such a short space. But that was a really powerful book, and you've got other great books too. So I'm really looking forward to talking more about haiku and poetry generally, and what you're doing with it. Do you want to start out? You sent a document that was some of your favorite haiku. And maybe we could start out, you know, talking about haiku more generally, you know, how you got into the form in the first place, and then maybe share some favorites too. So do you want to maybe share like the top poem on this favorite haiku list just for a second?
Okay. White wildflowers, I decide to stop hiding my gray.
Yeah, so that's, white wildflowers, I decide to stop hiding my gray. And so just great haiku there in all the ways that haiku can be great. So Crystal, how did you start writing haiku? You know, it is, you mentioned before, you know, before we got on the air about it being a small community. And it is, it's a wonderful community. But it is, you know, I don't know what percentage of, you know, poets today writing haiku, but it's a pretty small percentage. And so how did you find your way into that community?
Well, I'll say first that it's a small percentage of poets writing contemporary English language haiku, but haiku's written all over the world in different languages. It adapts to different cultures, and it's actually one of the more popular forms. One of the most written forms, in addition to free verse. But a lot of people don't know that because yes, here in America, there's a small amount of us who write. It's a very small community. Um, it's weird, and you usually you don't get into haiku unless you know a haiku poet. That's sort of the entry, right? I knew Leonard D. Moore. We met many years ago, and I was part of his. I am part of his Carolina African American Writers Collective, and it's a writers group of writers all over the state of North Carolina. And he would often bring haiku to workshop, and as an introduction, I'm like, okay, these are 3 lines. I'm a free verse poet. I'm writing long form. I'm doing all these things. And I'm like, what do we do with these 3 lines? And it was almost like frivolous to me almost. And I started to pay closer attention. And I noticed he had this just love for it. I mean, he loved it. And I thought there must be something to this. And so I started with a couple attempts, and of course, they were horrible. And then he just challenged me at one point. He said, you should write a haiku every day for a year. And of course, sensei that he's very disciplined. He's a wonderful practitioner of the form. But I did, and obviously, every day the haiku was, some days a nice haiku, other days you're like, trial and error. But it's funny that you asked me to read White Wildflowers because that was the first haiku that I knew when I wrote it was good. And I had been into the practice of that at that point, maybe months. And I thought, I think this is a decent haiku. And so that's pretty much how I got started. And once you've written a poem every day for a year, you do become, dare I say, master. You're not going to master it. It takes years to do that. But, you become pretty versed in what you're doing, and the practice gets easier.
Yeah. So what is it? I always loved, even for free verse, there was a poem I wrote like as an undergraduate where I like surprised myself. And, so I went through and was writing, poems that just sort of, I had the story I was kind of telling and I was putting in poetic language. And then I'd read it. Maybe I liked it in the moment, but then I'd read it the next day and I'd be like, man, what am I doing? And then I wrote one poem. It's not even a good poem, but it was a poem where I didn't know where I was going. And then at the end, I was like, wow, what the heck just happened? Like, that is like an insight, And then everything else after that was trying to write toward that place. So I love getting to hear those first poems where it clicked. So what is it about this poem do you think made it work? Like, why is it the first one that really took off for you?
The key with haiku is paying attention, and I wasn't very good at that. I'm used to the shiny objects, right? And I'm used to things that just, scream my attention. And with haiku, that's certainly not the case. You're in nature, and you're looking for small, mundane things, bird songs, storms, rain on your windshield, all sorts of things that can serve as a muse. And you're looking for these just aha moments. And so paying attention is a big part of it. And this particular day, I was outside with a student group, and I had literally sent them off to write haiku. And so they were kind of meandering around, and I was staring at a hill of wildflowers, and little teeny wildflowers, white wildflowers. And I just thought, I was in this dilemma of age and graying, and see, I get in trouble with this haiku too because obviously I have not stuck to to that. But I was in that space, and I thought, gray hair, white wildflowers, and it just came together very naturally, organically, and that's when I sort of knew, okay, I can continue to do this, but it does require a level of discipline and paying attention and being very meditative and contemplative that way.
Yeah. Well, let's read the next 2 maybe on this list of 10 that you sent. And then we'll talk maybe after that about what makes a haiku, which is always a contentious topic, or sometimes is. Yeah. But let's hear the next 2, I guess.
Okay. Winter Beach, a golden retriever runs off his leash. Spring break, my boys screaming at blue jays.
Yeah, so there are two great moments recorded there. And so, I mean, the first thing, which, veterans, viewers of the show, we've talked about this many times, but anybody who's just sort of stumbling in will look at this and say, wait a minute, that's not 575. I teach. That's 2 syllables. Those aren't haiku. So if that's not the definition of haiku, if a haiku is not a 575 syllabic form, then what is it?
Well, that certainly was part of the origin and the aesthetics in Japanese haiku. Obviously, haiku is Japanese. We adapt it to different cultures and different languages, but it is a Japanese form, and that's sort of important in Japan. It's important to Japanese poets. Not everybody does 575. Even Basho, the masters, you're not going to see all of those poems are 575. But in English language, it doesn't really, if you translate a Basho poem or an Isa poem into English, you're not going to get 575. So we sort of forfeit that it just doesn't serve us well, because, this is a different language, and Japanese language is more tonal, more about sounds and syllables, and it just doesn't serve us well. The 3 lines, we definitely adapted, and most of us adhere to that. There's monoku, there's 2-line, but most of us write 3-line haiku. The nature element is always there. At least it should be, in order for it to be a nature poem or identified as haiku. Let's see, there's a lot of aesthetics, and I happen to know a lot. I just don't want to inundate the audience and scare them. But yeah, and just there are 2 parts to a haiku. So you have the 1 line, and then you have a two line, and they're interchangeable. So the 2 spelling line can be first, or the 1 line can be last, or vice versa. So the 2 parts create this juxtaposition and this tension, and that's what you want. With the winter beach, that image, a golden retriever running off his leash, that's important because, first of all, dogs aren't allowed on beaches, not in North Carolina where I live. You rarely see them. And in the winter, they're allowed to. So it's these 2 moments coming together that are sort of, almost sort of the opposite of a thing, really. And that is important in haiku as well. And I'm trying to think of one more thing, that imagery. You want nice imagery, right? You want imagery in all poems, but you certainly need it in haiku, as well as sensory images. You need to invoke the senses. So smell, hearing, sight is obviously our dominant sense. So I try to stay away from, red flowers, because anybody can write that. But yeah, invoking the senses, that's another.
Yeah, well, that sense of 2, I think, is so interesting to me. And for me, I define haiku as, just to explain it, as 2 worlds in one breath. I think that's like the essence of it. And that sense of putting things together is so important, because that's really the heart of what a metaphor is carrying over metaphor. That's what it literally means, from one thing to another. And that gives the haiku the sense of movement. But there's also this fascinating element, and it's maybe one thing we haven't talked much on this show before about, because we've talked about haiku a ton. And I was interested to see, and I think it was the introduction maybe to Runagate, talking about the Zen tradition, and how that in the Zen, the phrase that I learned in practice was prahitya samutpada, which is the interdependently arising phenomenon. But it's the sense that, like, causality goes both ways, kind of, and everything is interconnected. And so that showing this connection between the 2 things that seem disparate but are actually connected gives us sort of an awareness, I think, of our own interconnectedness. And then and that's the spirit of the haiku, maybe, if you could distill it down to something. Would you agree with that? And I want to hear more about your interest in Zen practice, because I think they are really intimately related.
They are, I'm teaching right now. I'm teaching Zen and Zen Buddhism and haiku. And we look at duality versus non-duality, and we look at, as you said, that universal, um, everything is sort of interconnected. So the body, the spirit, the mind, all of that is interconnected. And it's really seen as one in non-duality. And so that is important, I think, because I just for the practice of haiku, you really have to sort of discipline yourself to see things that are mundane, that are simple, simplistic, right? But then take that and make it profound. And that's what you want to do. And so that's the challenge. And that's why I like haiku. And when I began to really learn how to craft haiku, I got why Leonard liked it, because it's very challenging. It's not easy. But yeah, that Zen portion for me is important. Not all haiku is written. Zen is not present in all haiku, and it's certainly not something that all writers practice. It's just there for me. It's important for me in the practice and in the discipline for me to have Zen.
Yeah, I think there's a line. I mean, I do think it's all Zen, actually. Maybe people wouldn't put it that way. There's a line from, I can't remember what, but I think it's the Buddha. It says at one point, you may not be aware of your own enlightenment, And I think that feeling, even if it's not somebody who practices Buddhism at all or is even aware of the concepts, I think it feels to me like that's what, like it's hard to find a haiku that doesn't create that feeling, like that sense of connection. And that's why it requires two things somehow, or not even if it's not two things. There's a great haiku that, it's a Basho haiku. I can't remember how it goes, but it's the red bird on a branch, and you sort of just change perspective on the bird. I can't remember it, but just that shift in perspective is like a whole shift in a world too, And so having that bridge between the two things is so profound, I think, and it feels like that's just the heart of it. And I think, and so it's really fascinating to see. And I think in yours, for most of what I've read, you do have that short line structure where one of the lines is the one world and another is the other, and so you can see the split pretty clearly. Do you want to read a couple more?
Sure. This is another haiku that I was writing during that year-long practice. And this is another one where as soon as it happened, I knew that it was, and I don't want to call haiku good or bad, or good attempts or bad attempts, but the idea is to write effective haiku. You want it to be effective. You want it to resonate, to land with the reader, like any good poem. But that's hard to do in 3 lines, right? So I'll read that one. Ginkgo tree, how to skip the class I teach.
Yeah.
Plantation.
Sorry.
I'm going to read the second one too.
Okay.
Plantation tour. I follow a swallowtail to the slave house.
Yeah, and that second one, I think if I remember, is from Ebbing Shore, and a powerful haiku there. And one of the things too that's really interesting, and this is one of the things that changed my thinking a little bit, is talking to Lou Watts. I can't remember if it was on the Rattlecast or when we interviewed him for an issue, but he mentioned in his sort of journey into what haiku can do and how they can work. He said that the biggest step for him was realizing you had to find a way to put yourself in it. Even though it's a nature poem and there's distance and there's this sort of sense of sort of objectivity and like, you're far away from it, even being far away, having yourself in it is a kind of cut too. And having, so these, I think 3 of the 4 you read have the I or self reflection in there. But even the one I was looking back at I'll put this on the screen for everybody at home again, the winter beach, a golden retriever runs off his leash. Even though you don't say you're on the beach there, the sort of there's a fact that the golden retriever might run up at you is sort of a part of the haiku, and so you are there even in abstantia or something. And so there's a personal feeling that's transferred anyway, you know what I mean? And so is that a fundamental part, do you think, for making a haiku work, is to have a sense of your own personhood in it?
Yes and no. I think like Core, and I can't say Core's last name. It's always, he has like three or four names, but he was a poet, a haiku poet, who has passed on, but he very seldom had the I. It was always very universal, and you knew that it was a poem of witness, that he was experiencing this, that he was seeing it, but he rarely put himself in the haiku. So it just sort of, for me, I love that practice because he could just open it up, and the reader can just, immerse themselves in it and take what they want from his observation. The I is pretty typical, I would say. A lot of us are looking at nature, paying attention, and then it's a response, right? How are we connecting? How are we one with this red robin? How are we one with this evening storm? And so that connection, just sort of by default, we end up with the I in the poem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's hear a few more from this list.
Okay. Oh, the next one is Senryu. And I don't know if your audience knows what Senryu is, but instead of nature, it's a 3-line poem about human nature. So you don't necessarily need the nature element in there. And it's kind of like, we call it like the cousin to haiku. So this is weight gain. He suggests we buy a bigger house. Organic shop. Too broke to be a hippie. Bleeding sunset. I mourn another fetus with her.
Yeah. So much, humanity in those, and in such short, condensed lines. What can you tell us about your writing process for haiku? Do they come out? I've talked to people that do it a lot of different ways, but sometimes it's a lot of revision over and over again, like tweaking different ways of phrasing things and things like that. And others sort of just walk around and think of them in their head and then write them down eventually. So, but where are you on that continuum, and what's the process like when you approach? I imagine it comes from, some kind of thing that you've witnessed. I think it feels like witness is generally a central thing. Is that something you've seen or experienced, and then you start to put it on paper? How's that go?
Yeah, there are haikus that the haiku comes and it's in your mind. And for me, I'm always trying to run and jot down the beginnings of it, because I don't want to miss that. You don't want to miss it. If that moment happens, you definitely want to capture it. And I'm not too good. I have a lot of information in my mind, as you might imagine, with the different hats and roles that I assume. So I have to jot it down. But yeah, even if it's an image, jotting down an image, if it's the entire haiku, and that's lucky when the whole thing happens, immediately, jotting it down. I do have a process of chiseling, and that comes from free verse. Because free verse for me, I love free verse. I haven't written free verse in quite some time, but free verse for me always meant a spill. I'm spilling all, because the poem would come and I would spill it all onto the page, or in my case, the laptop. And then I would just go back and chisel and chisel and chisel and edit and picking, word economy, the right words, brevity, all of the things I needed to do to it. And so, and I chisel hard. I'm not easy on myself. And so with haiku, that works the same way. I'm big on going back and really looking at the perfect word and making it as finite as possible.
Yeah. Well, why don't we read the last few haiku you've got here?
Okay. Another mass shooting. My son practices his trumpet solo. Foreclosure. The garden Buddha, belly up.
Yeah. So just wonderful. You can really see clearly that the way the structure in all these poems and how the structure makes it work. Looking at the one, Bleeding Sunset, I mourn another fetus with her, which is such a powerful one, especially after, as you read it with some humorous ones, then that last line really hits hard. How does that come to be? Do you see did the sunset come first, or did the the fetus come first, or did they come together? Like where would what was the order of imagination in one like that, and do they usually work in the similar ways?
Well, often a haiku can happen all at once. And in this case, that was the case. A friend called and with news of a miscarriage. And I took the call outside of the place that I was in, and the sun was just setting in this sort of very beautiful way. And the news and the sunset happened at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so that's not often, but that does happen sometimes.
So when it doesn't happen, how do you know where to go with it? You know, say you wanted to, I don't know, foreclosure, the Garden Buddha belly up, maybe that one, or where you don't have both sides of it. How do you know to go from one to the other? Where does that come from? The second part.
Let me see here. I'm trying to find one where, so, Tim, a lot of these happen. Just not so like Organic Shop, Too Broke to Be a Hippie, which we will say maybe a Senryu, maybe a nature poem, Organic Shop. But the idea is, you're in this place and, you're looking at all the organic food and the clothing and all the different things, and you're looking at the price tags, right? And so you walk out, you forget about it, you buy whatever, you can afford at the time. And later on, you think back to it, and then this, oh my goodness, this is supposed to be things that hippies, I'm too broke to be a hippie. So sometimes it just comes later, and I like to think of, sometimes haiku in terms of wit and humor and maybe even riddle, all the different rules. And so it doesn't always happen in an instant, but sometimes that image is there or that thought is there, and then something just comes along and pairs itself with it, and you go, okay, this pairs well with this. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
So maybe the key is noticing. Like you were saying before, doing it every day. Having to notice. It must change your perspective. It must make you. If you're looking for something to do every day or something to write about, then I think that the sense of connection you must feel going through a day looking for connections like that must make the day different too. Do you think that the haiku practice improves your life and your feeling?
Yeah, and that's the Zen. That's the practice. That's the like zazen and meditation, and that is it. Just paying attention. Often with the radio off while you're driving in silence, or running, or when you go for your walk, and just turning off those thoughts. My husband works from home, probably like you do as well, and he has to go out for that walk to purge. And be able to reset and come back. And so, I have a haiku that I wrote. It was raining and I was driving one day, and it was toward the end of the day, and I had not had my haiku. And I thought, I guess it's almost like if you had a daily practicing of meditation, and you know that you have not done it, so you have to do it. And so it was raining, and it just came to me, and I said, rain mist, needing the sister I stopped speaking to. And so it was just there. But the idea that was sort of weighing on me, and then it was raining, which set this mood, this somber mood. And so those two things just came together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Mark Grinier has actually two questions in the chat window. So first, quickly probably, how many attempts per successful haiku do you make?
Okay, so there is a running joke. At least it was told to me as a joke, but I think it bears some truth, that you can write 1,000 haiku, maybe two are good, That's the sort of running joke. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of practice. It's a lot of writing down images, and it just nothing comes of that one, or or this one's just not great. And you don't have to keep them all, right? If you write a bad haiku, and tear it up, move on, go to the next haiku. The idea is, I don't work in a vacuum. I don't think any writer should. So there's workshopping. There are haiku that I've workshopped that I didn't think was very good, and turns out it's pretty effective. And then there's haiku I've written. They're like, that's just not working,
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I think that, like I said, the aha moments when you write a great haiku and it's good, those are, I can tell you that they're not super often. Where you go, I don't need to edit this, I don't need to do anything, it's perfect, it's just perfect the way it is. They're not often. It's called practice.
Mm-hmm.
You become a practitioner of the form, and that's what also makes it fun. It's not free verse or sonnets or terza rimas, or all the different approaches you can take, that require a lot of muse, that require narrative and story and all of that. It's not that. It's just a practice that
Mm-hmm.
you're engaging the senses and you're in nature.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe that's why, or one of the reasons why we love haiku so much around here, is because we feel like, our mission as a nonprofit for the Rattle Foundation is to promote the practice of poetry, because we think poetry, just the pursuit of that, trying to organize yourself and get a better understanding of the hidden things you're not aware of, and noticing the world. It's a practice that makes everybody better. As human beings. And so that's why it's worth promoting. And that's what we try to do. And in the haiku community just shows it so clearly, because, when you have people who are doing that practice daily, and it's much easier to do when it's such a small form, because you can write a haiku in your head, which you can't for so many other forms. It just makes it's such a great practice to do regularly. The other question, though, from Mark, and then a few people were talking about it too in the chat, was the difference between haiku and senryu, which, you mentioned, haiku being nature and senryu being human nature, which I think is a really basic, easy description. But then there's so much, sort of the line is very blurry between the two. And I think a lot of the haiku journals that are publishing, in English, tend to sort of ignore the distinction at this point, but others don't, I think. So what, how much do we worry about the line, I guess, between haiku and senryu?
Oh, that's an age-old question, Tim. Uh, let's see. Frogpond does, the Journal for Haiku Society of America, does print haiku and senryu, and we're clear on,
Mm-hmm.
on the cover that that's what we're doing. The distinction it becomes blurred and problematic. I will say, oftentimes you'll have a senryu that has a nature element in it. So then you're like, okay, well, this is a nature poem, so maybe this is a haiku. And other times it has so the I think the aesthetics too, like the geeko, or what, all the different things that they can have. It is at this point. I don't know. I don't want to be too opinionated about it. I kind of see them as cousins. Maybe a little distant, but still, I mean, they fit. If I see a senryu in a haiku in a haiku journal, that's fine. But it's usually a haiku that if it's a journal that says it publishes haiku, and there's a lot of senryu, then I just say, maybe you should acknowledge, if there is this distinction, we should acknowledge that you also publish senryu, and also there are journals that publish senryu, and that's the focus, and then sometimes a haiku sort of is dabbled in there. So yeah, I think there is a distinction, but the practice, most haiku poets, I should say, maybe I'm being a little presumptuous here, but I think a lot of haiku poets write senryu.
Mm-hmm.
We just do. I mean, they're interchangeable. in that way.
Yeah, I think, well, Katie in the chat says, I don't see humans as outside of nature, and therefore the distinction doesn't really apply much. And I think maybe that's the issue. It used, just as our view of, the world and maybe science advances, a couple hundred years ago, it was much easier to see us humans as distinct from nature. Even as we move, though, farther away with our technological world where we can have Zoom recordings and things like this, and I'm in a lit office with electricity swirling around, even now we, I think, understand better that we are part of nature just from like Darwinism and things like that. And so there's sort of a friction there between the two, maybe, which makes it like a contentious topic and one that sort of used to apply more than does now. So it's a really interesting question. You mentioned the Haiku Society. I wanted to ask about that. Because there's a bunch of different organizations that do wonderful things with haiku, which is one of the things I think that sustain it as such a vital community. And so there's the Haiku Society of America, which you're the president of, and then there's also the Haiku Foundation, and then there are other organizations too, like Modern Haiku, which I love to read. Do I have a copy? I don't have a copy on the thing, but Modern Haiku is its separate publication too, and there are all sorts of different things in organizations. Haiku North America is another, I think, separate somehow. I'm not sure how they're all intertwined, but tell us about the Haiku Society of America and what it does and what your role as president is there.
It was started a very long time ago. Predates me and my birth, but the Haiku Society is sort of I feel like overarching. I don't want to call it an institution. It's an organization for haiku poets writing in the English language, specifically here in America. But we do have an international following that's wonderful. And Frogpond obviously is our premier journal, and it's one of the premier journals in haiku. Our mission basically is to spread the word of haiku. We do look at conventions. We look at definitions. We look at teaching haiku and there's a number of things. But ideally, we are a nice go-to resource for those who want to begin writing haiku, those that do write haiku. I stepped into the role in January of this year, and as any person who's new in an existing role, I mean, you got to figure out where to step, right? And so you're like, okay, I'm stepping over here, and what does this look like, and maybe how do we make this anew? Or I'm stepping over here. Ooh, this is a little bit of a landmine. Let's figure that out. And so. But it's an honor to serve. It's a wonderful organization. And like I said, we're having our conference in November. There's usually an annual conference. We did not have one last year, but this one is virtual and it's on the edge. So I do hope that folks can register for it. You'll find the registration link on all of our social media accounts. And it's a good time to, if you're interested in haiku, be a part of that conference, because you're gonna find a lot of wonderful poets there and scholars. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's a forum, so there's scholarship involved as well. So yeah, and you can join the Haiku Society to access the registration link, or if you would like a free scholarship, we are open to that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my grandma was a member, and that's how I that was my introduction. You mentioned everybody has an introduction to haiku. Well, it was my grandma who liked writing haiku. She had little notebooks and liked to jot them down and read the journal and things like that. So, yeah, it's a wonderful thing. And a virtual conference is great too, because then it's so much easier than having to go somewhere. So, yeah, definitely everybody should check that out.
And, yeah, I should say so that's the Haiku Society of America. The Haiku Foundation was founded by Jim Cation and still exists. There's not a lot of overlap, and I'm not saying there hasn't been in previous years. They're two different organizations doing different things. Jim oversees the Touchstone Distinguished Book Awards, which is I think haiku poets, they give multiple awards out sometimes. They're for books, they're for haiku, individual haiku. And so that's always a treat, because it's always good to have your work rewarded, but they have a great committee that looks at that. And he has archives, and his work is just separate. We also have Juxta over there. So Juxtaposition is our haiku scholarship academic journal. And so we publish once a year. I believe it's once a year. So yeah. So I think each organization has their handful with what they're providing for the haiku community, which is wonderful.
And what they have in common is such a pure love of haiku itself. I think that's the thing that makes it really stand out, is everybody's sort of encouraging each other to promote and share and write great haiku, which is a really wonderful thing. Let's move on to your most recent book, Runagate, which is a powerful collection. It takes all this haiku that we've been talking about, all the understanding of the form, and applies that, plus Tonka too, which I don't think we'll try to talk much about, but taking those forms and applying them to history and social justice. Do you want to start out just explain what Runagate is? There's so much fascinating historical, especially, content in it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that when I say haiku adapts well to different cultures, obviously within our society, we have different cultures. And African American culture sort of comes into play when you're writing haiku as an African American, because, you do have this history and cultural background, and that is going to seep into your work at some point. It's something that you don't omit. It's not in every haiku. It's not in every project that you have, but it certainly does seep into the work. So Runagate is a book of, it's really a very bold project, because it's a lot happening here, but it is a book of haiku sequences that are ekphrastic poems that are written in response to fugitive slave ads. The fugitive slave ads are, I should say, they're in the database. Cornell University archived a database of over 30,000. I don't know how many are there now, of these one ads for you to just go and read. And I spent a lot of time reading those and researching with that artifact and other artifacts in the book. Slave recordings of people who were enslaved as children from the Federal Project, and different artifacts, but they're written ekphrastically in response. And for me, I kind of feel like they're also maybe persona poems that give the enslaved voice, and in a way that we haven't done in the past. Obviously, it was muted in education, public education, private education. It's been largely muted. And so this, I think, sort of sheds light. The ads themselves shed a lot of light on the history of slavery in this country. But the poems really give voice to the enslaved people. And that's really what kept me in this work, because it's very hard work. This was not an easy project, psychologically and in any other way, but that's what's important for me.
Yeah. Well, do you want to read one to start? I think we're going to start with Henry and Maria, and probably the advertisement too that leads off.
Yes, absolutely. This book was published by Duke University Press for those who are interested in purchasing a copy, but you can pick them up in local bookstores as well. Let's go with Henry and Maria. Stop the thief, a free man who calls himself Henry Fields, has stolen from the subscriber living near Salem, Franklin County, a Negro woman named Maria. The Negro man is a low, heavy-set fellow, tolerantly black, about 5 feet 6 inches high. He has a certificate from Colonel Micah Toll that he is a free man. The girl is of yellow complexion, spare built, about 5 feet high. As I now recollect, she has a scar from a burn on one of her cheeks, but not recollected, which she is 18 or 19 years old. It is thought that they will make for Kentucky, and from there to a free state. I will give $25 for the apprehension of the girl and $25 for the boy, if confined to any jail, so that I can get them. The boy has with him a fiddle. He stole a gray mare from William Devon near Winchester. W. M. Woods, August 1840. Henry and Maria. Indigo midnight. I made her the offer of freedom or heaven. She took one hand, in my other a gripped fiddle. Humid night, our solitude a paradise. Breaking morning, I fetch water and bread morsels. River crossing, we mask in mud, abandon the mare. We dwell on, delivered from under the whip.
Yeah, so that's powerful material, taking the language, which is so, so dehumanizing and so devoid of poetry, I guess you could say too, and then adding both of those two things back with the persona poems and the haiku form. What was the process like? And persona poems are not something you see very often in haiku, although, Issa had a Hyben that was persona poems that we looked at on a workshop we did with Katie a while ago, but it's not something you see very often. And so how did you approach doing this? It's a pretty ambitious project, finding archives of things and then turning that into poetry. What was that like? And, especially stuff being so emotionally charged too. What was the experience of writing the book like?
Yeah, it was a lot of immersion, and that was difficult. I read hundreds of these probably, and that didn't even touch the surface because they're like over 30,000 or more in this particular archive. What I have an interest, probably because of a undergraduate degree in visual art, and my father was also an artist, but I do have an interest in modality and looking at different art forms and artifacts and existing texts, much like Dark Testament, and sort of creating something new, right? And I want this engagement with it. And with this engagement, obviously it's a muse, but with this engagement, I want to know, as the poet, what can I shapeshift here and make new and create something new? And so that's the interest, and that's sort of why this comes about. But yeah, it was difficult. And I would say my writing of the poems, I don't think a person who's not studied slavery extensively could do this, because I sort of have a sort of reservoir of knowledge in terms of language. For reading, I've read many slave narratives. I taught slave narrative classes. And so over the years, so I've read a lot. And so while these are reimagined journeys, because that's what they are, you're reimagining, we have no idea the plight of the enslaved person, whether they made it to freedom, whether they were caught. More than likely they were caught, as we know statistically. But that sort of reimagined journey was the most interesting part. But a lot of the factual information in these poems come from the knowledge. When I say in one of the poems, she signed the bill of sale with a cross because mistress had dementia and she no longer could write out her name. A lot of this information I just had. So it was not, I didn't have to research very hard in that way. But yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it definitely does. Do you want to read? Well, first I should say, if everybody has any questions for Crystal, please leave them in the chat windows on YouTube or Facebook, and I'll pass any along. It helps if you put question all in all caps so I can see it scrolling up, like some people, I think Mark Grenier already did. Also, if you haven't clicked the like button yet, please do. There are about twice as many people watching us have clicked like yet. And if I say that, then more people will click like, and then more people will watch this show later. So please do click like if you haven't yet. And now let's read the next one, Crystal. Next is Peter.
Okay, Peter. $100 reward. Runaway or was stolen on the 6th of July last. A yellow boy by the name of Peter, about 15 or 16 years old, heavy-made with clumsy feet. Otherwise, he is hard to detect, being very white with blue or yellowish eyes. Straight, fair hair, very intelligent when spoken to, took with him a new pair of white Jane's pantaloons and a short coat. A pair of neat, high-quartered pin-button shoes, new with buckskin strings in them, a new hat, and other articles of clothes too tedious to mention. Peter. Burning bright, the sun reddened my fair skin. The fire of it, cruel as the whips. I stole a straw hat, begged to pick seeds from the cotton under the sycamore. For it all, I was flogged as he recited scripture. I could not stay under a cruel master who was a good preacher.
Yeah, and you can see the power of that one too. And so I'm wondering, you mentioned, having so much, read so much and being a scholar of this topic. I'm wondering, was there anything that you learned in the process of writing the book that surprised you from, going through these and reaching in, I guess, to yourself to pull out these narrative threads in haiku? Yeah.
I think in anyone's mind, or anybody who's living today, we have this sort of idea of slavery being this distant thing, probably because of the cruelty and the darkness of it all. And we think it's far away. And that was what was different. For me, spending all of the time reading, particularly the slave ads, not necessarily writing in response, was, it was not that long ago. It was 200 years ago. I always like to tell people that's one person living to be 100 and another person living to be 100, right? 2 long lifespans. It was not that long ago. Also, proximity. And so, of course, there was slavery in North Carolina where I live. But then, it's just right there. It's 2 hours away. It's 30 minutes away. Some of the ads were very close to the county that I live in. And so I think because we have put this in a place, and I say we as a society, have put this in a place where it's rarely spoken of. It's certainly not taught in institutions, learning institutions, that we don't understand the gravity of why it is still a problem today, and why it's still the repercussions, all of the things that we are dealing with today are a direct result of this not being dealt with, right? And so that was really what brought it to the forefront for me. And it's not easy. This is some of the things that I write about. Some of these they're even narrative poems, persona poems, whatever you want to call them, are not easy to digest at all. You have to sort of think about humans treating other human beings that way, right? Not easy to digest doesn't mean it's not necessary to talk about it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, as you talk, I'm thinking about how, people are so, as how awful it was makes us not want to think about it. In the same way, so many people are in denial of their own death. That's kind of a way we walk around in this world. Like, we're all going to die someday, and nobody wants to think about it. And then, going back in time in the other direction, that was awful, and nobody wants to think about it. And yet, because of that, those are the things that are so important to talk about, because they're the things that have all that underneath unconscious trauma rearing its head over and over again because we don't discuss it. And, and the fear of death being one of them. I mean, people do so many silly things because they don't want to, confront the fact of their own mortality. And this is the same way by confronting history. You mentioned that a lot of the work does have a lot of traumatic material in it. Did you find ever wanting to shy away from that? Or did you feel more like it was your duty to record those things? I mean, how did you find that balance between, being, things being that difficult and still being a book people would want to read? And how did you negotiate that? Because it's a difficult line too.
Yeah, I mean, it's meant to confront. Also, it's meant to make audiences uncomfortable. That's the intent. There's no way to shy away from what happened, and there's no way to, what's the word I'm looking for? Dress this up as anything other than it was. And I would be doing a disservice by doing that. So no, I just thought that I'm going to write. Obviously, I wanted to center the form around nature because it is haiku, but at the same time, I really wanted people to understand that for the enslaved person, nature was captivity, right? And so this notion that, you think you take a warm day for granted. If you're working in a field for 12 hours under 96 degree, heat, that's torturous. Many enslaved people in slave narratives write about being cold, we always think about heat, how they did not have enough firewood in winters, how they didn't have enough blankets or warmth in winter, and just these basic human needs not being met. And so that there's no reason not to state, the facts as they presented themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's definitely one of the things. I mean, poetry being, every poem is a little empathy machine. And so, having to be put into really the breath of another person experiencing those things is the key to understanding and getting past and really, really feeling like we understand it, And so it's really important. These are the subjects that we have to write poems about. And so it's really great that you did. Let's hear the last one of the three we're going to share. The last one was Maria Francis.
Mariah Francis.
Mariah Francis, yes. Yeah.
And this was interesting, as I said, going through the many ads. Many of these ads were published in northern newspapers. So this is from the New Jersey Gazette, because the idea is that you assume that the fugitive is headed to a free state. Left the plantation of the subscriber in Wilkes County the 5th of March last, my Negro woman, Mariah Francis, about 18 years old, of light complexion, having purchased said Negro from Mrs. M.E. Blunt of Mitchellville, Georgia. It may be that she is lurking about that place or her plantation in Washington County. I will pay $25 for the delivery of the girl to me, or in any jail so that I may get her. If said Negro is harbored by any white person, I will pay $100 for evidence to convict. T.C. Whitehurst, Gordon, Georgia, May 20th, 1839. Mariah Francis. Morning chores, my downcast face met at every turn. His footsteps, his foul words whispered. Sundown fields, he trod my heels. This new tune. His shadow cast over me, brute tormentor. Overpowered, I shivered with disgust. I turned my face to the North Star, homebound.
Yeah, that's another haiku sequence from Crystal Simone Smith's newest book, Runagate, which you can check out from Duke University Press. One thing I wanted to ask about, a very practical level, I noticed that you've written books with the help of fellowships and grants and things like that. I mean, Ebbing Shore, there was a grant I think I read where you were traveling around to different slave plantations and turning that into haiku. And I think that's one of those things that so many poets don't think about doing. Is seeking money for that and actually going to do projects that matter and advancing poetry that way into different spheres and looking at background and actually doing research. So much of poetry is like, I'm going to sit around and look out the window and think about my life and then write something down, which is great. But there's a world out there too. And then there are some funding channels for helping you go into that world and explore it through poetry. So how is there any advice you could recommend for people who want to do that kind of thing? I mean, it's not something you see very often, and it's really something that I think more people would love to have an idea of how to start pursuing maybe.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a very niche situation in which I was reading slave narratives and noticing how nature was depicted differently in these narratives. So when I began to write haiku about slavery or slave haiku, it was clear that it was African American haiku. It's not it's a little bit of a departure from contemporary English language haiku. So I think the fact that it was so niche and so unique made it interesting to folks who were looking to fund projects. I don't know. I that would probably be my advice is, the undertaking. Really, really consider your undertaking, right? This is historic, sheds light on a time through documents and artifacts that doesn't have a wide audience at all, right? And so I think the purpose that you're going to put in whatever the work it is, that's sort of where the focus needs to be. But having said that, there are plenty of grant funders who they're generally research fellowships. So you'd have to sort of come up with an inquiry or get your mind about what you want to research, because like you said, anyone can look out the window and write, a book of poems or a chapbook of poems, but research involves a little more. And that involves you sometimes traveling into spaces and places like historically preserved slave plantations or other spaces, and doing specific work, doing what I like to call sort of exhibition or just art, uncovering all of these things that are bubbling underneath and bringing them to the surface.
Yeah. Well, great advice. And it is something I just wanted to put out there because I do wish more poets would do that kind of thing. We have the chapbook coming up in the winter in December. Backlit by Liz Robbins is a book of persona poems that she wrote after interviewing a series of sex workers. And so sharing their stories and going out into the world and doing more than just your own sort of perspective and broadening that through poetry is something that I do wish poetry would do more of. So it's really cool to see you do that. Let's close out with the new book that's forthcoming. It was called Common Sense, I believe, right? Yeah, Common Sense. And that's erasure poems, which is something you've done before too. So what can you tell us about that project and I guess erasure poems more generally too?
Yeah, well, what I did last time was Dark Testament, which is very much, they're visual poems. Dark Testament was different because there was a blacking out of a certain portion of or section of the text. And here with erasure, there's a backdrop. So that backdrop leaves you what was there originally.
Oh, that's so interesting. I never knew the difference. So between, I've seen them, I always thought they were like synonymous, like just blackout poems and erasure poems. But yeah, so you can see, we'll see in a second, but you can see through the strike through and you can see what used to be there. Yeah.
So with blackout, you are illuminating text to create new text or new poem. But with erasure, you're illuminating text. And also the reader has the option to go back and say, okay, well, see what the original text was. So you get to sort of engage in both ways. Most people would probably just read the illuminated version. But yeah, so that's the difference. And so, yeah, I'm a rangy poet. I like to work in many different spaces and experiment with forms. And so this one's been interesting. It's obviously very timely with the political landscape we have right now and with the semi-quincentennial coming up. So yeah, it's an erasure of Thomas Paine's pamphlet, his original Common Sense. But yes, I can read it. I have to pull it. Sorry. Yeah. I did have it pulled up. Oh, I can't do it. All right. And this is on the section. This particular pamphlet had 4 major sections that Paine addressed, which when he was addressing the inhabitants of the country at that time, in order to sort of convince them to break away from the British monarchy. Mankind equals in creation. The equality could only be destroyed by the distinctions of rich and poor. Oppression is often the consequence of riches. A man too wealthy. Another and greater distinction is the distinction of men into kings, of men so exalted above the rest, distinguished like some new species. They are the means of misery to mankind. In the early ages of the world, there were no kings, there were no wars. It was the pride of kings which threw mankind into confusion, into idolatry. The title of majesty applied to a worm who in the midst of his splendor is crumbling to dust. The equal rights of nature expressively disapproves of monarchical governments which form scripture, doctrine of courts. Under delusion, and the elders sinful to acknowledge being under idolatrous homage. Monarchy is one of the sins of history, with invented declarations of thanks to one which is exceedingly unaccountable, and here, notwithstanding the great distance of time and difference of manners, the character is still in fashion.
Yeah, so that was from Common Sense, a new project by Crystal Simone Smith. And you know, one of the things, monarchy is one of the sins of history. Like pulling that out of the text of Thomas Paine is really fascinating, obviously. How do you approach erasure poems, and what are you trying to do? I think this is a form in 315 episodes. I don't think we've ever had an erasure poem like this on the Rattlecast. So how are you approaching this, and what are you trying to do with it?
Trying to stay sane. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of unimaginable that we're here, right? I think I wrote this or did this erasure project after the first tenure of Trump, and just as a response, right? Just sort of getting all of that out, and we're here again, right? And so time-wise, it's interesting. I mean, I encountered Thomas Paine's Common Sense when I was teaching a literary course at a university called Meredith. And it was just an American Lit course. And this huge book, you know, have you seen them before? These American Lit compilations of all these. And I looked at it and I read it, and I had never read it. I'd never read many of the founding fathers' documents. Outside of the Constitution and your typical, you know, Bill of Rights. And I read it and I thought it was well written. I mean, he was one of the you know, best writers of his time. He was handpicked by Thomas Jefferson to write Common Sense. And I read it, and there was what struck me was there was this plea of, we don't like monarchy, we hate monarchy, this is horrible. We don't want this for ourselves. We don't want to be treated this way. But yet, in that same time frame, they were oppressing other human groups. Mm-hmm. So this was written only for white men, because they were going to oppress women in America once it was established. They were going to enslave Black people and Africans, all of that. So they couldn't even see the distinction through the fact that they didn't want it for themselves, but they were very willing and happy to be participants in oppressing other human groups. And so that's what I took from it. Mm-hmm. And that was a long time ago, and I forgot about it. And then once this started happening and we sort of see this sort of crumbling of democracy, I thought, nah, I'm going to revisit that. And so this came out of that.
Yeah, that is fascinating, especially to read these two side by side. Slavery and then talking about monarchy is something that a connection that never really occurred to me, and apparently never occurred to Thomas Paine, although it should have. That they're related in this really fascinating way. Chattel slavery, being that humans could be treated like that and deserve to be where they were born into forever, is the same thing on the other end of the spectrum as thinking the monarchy deserves to be in power forever by nature of the bloodline of where they were born. And so, holding those two things up side by side is just really fascinating. And like so many things, they couldn't look at it for what it was, even as they were thought they were fighting against it, which is so typical of some of the worst traits of humanity that we tend to do. But yeah, so it's a really interesting book. So for the erasure itself, though, for the actual like going through line by line and sort of finding poem, are you looking to turn things on their head or find phrases that do? I'm not even sure how to approach this. So I'm really curious, just on a craft level, of making an erasure poem out of content like this.
Yeah. It is. I can tell you, Tim, that it's painstaking. Mm-hmm. It's not something that's easy to do. The language is archaic, right? It's the King's English, and so after I could get past that, I think what really drove the process was the fact that I kept seeing the discrepancies. And so I kept illuminating these discrepancies and like, okay, well, that's not what you wanted and you hated monarchy. But now we're under I don't want to say regime, that's a horrible thing, an administration that is almost insisting on monarchy. And so I could see these parallels between the two. And I'm like, is this a paradigm of then or is this a paradigm of now? And so that really sort of kept the process going. But yeah, I would say erasure is a little more painstaking than blackout. Blackout is a little easier, and you really need long forms. And so this document was very long. He just sort of went on and on forever, trying to convince the inhabitants to remove themselves from British rule. But yeah, and even in the process of writing and experimenting with visual poetry, it does give you a place to sort of be grounded, which you don't have with free verse or haiku or any other form. So you're grounded in this place, and all you have to do is go in and find the poem. It's found poetry. That's what they call it, and go in and find it. And so that process I've enjoyed. I liked it with Dark Testament and with Common Sense.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned this is forthcoming. And do you know when the book will be out?
It will be released April 2026.
Okay, great. Well, yeah. Well, another fascinating book to share, and you had so much cool content to share with us, Crystal. Thanks for being a guest today. It's been really fun talking, and of course, we always love haiku. So, getting to talk about that in more detail is always fun too.
Thank you, Rattle, for supporting haiku. There's so many. That's the one thing that I'll leave with you is that there's so many journals, right? I can't even count them. There's so many, and you guys just do a great job of supporting not only haiku, haibun, the other forms, Japanese forms that we write in. So thank you guys for that.
Well, definitely our pleasure. We love it, and that's why. And it's just the heart of poetry almost. So we really want to wish more people, were on board and we're sharing it as much as we were, because we do love it and love all you do. Thanks so much for being here, Crystal. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah. Once again, that was Crystal Simone Smith. You can find all of her work at her website, crystalsimonesmith.com. That's crystalsimonesmith.com, like how you'd guess. And now we're going to take a quick break and go to our prompt lines. And Katie's prompt for this week was the following. right here. Write a poem about the influence music has had on you over the years while making the poem itself as musical as possible. So musical poems about music. That was your prompt this week. If you wrote one, feel free to share it. A couple reminders first. First, email your poems to promptlines@rattle.com. That's promptlines@rattle.com. Prompt lines all one word. That way we can show the poem on screen as you read it. Everybody gets to enjoy it more that way. And then find the Zoom link, which I'm about to deploy on Facebook and YouTube. Just click to join the Zoom, but only if you would like to share a poem. If you want to just sit back and enjoy all the wonderful poetry, the best place to do that is wherever you're watching this now. Also, don't forget that it's a 1-page max and also a 3-minute max time on camera. So if it's one of those really wordy poems with long lines from the whole thing, dive right in. Don't read too slow. Make sure we have time to get to as many folks as possible. And we'll be right back with a whole lot more poetry. And we're back. Thanks so much for your patience as I accidentally sign out of everything instead of just the one prompt lines email address that I meant to do. But we're joined here with Katie Dozier, my associate editor, my wife, prompt lines editor, all the wonderful things. How you doing, Katie?
I'm doing great. I loved getting a chance to listen to that interview. And I think what I admire perhaps the most about Crystal is her dedication to these bigger projects and the impact you can make with a whole collection being that way.
Oop, hang on one second.
We are hearing an echo.
We are. Hang on a second. Oh, I can't. Why can't I mute?
Sorry, we're listening to ourselves in our head. That's why we're being quiet.
Yeah. Hey, Crystal, can you unmute or mute yourself on the Zoom? Sorry. No, it's my fault.
We're glad Crystal's still here.
We are,
though.
yeah. It's
Hi.
great. Yeah, Crystal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to say that. Sorry, Crystal. But anyway, yeah, so we're here. The prompt for this week was to write a poem about the influence music has had on you over the years, while making the poem itself as musical as possible. So what'd you do, Katie?
Honestly, so I had less time to write this week, and when I remembered this was the prompt that I came up with, I was a little overwhelmed. Like, how am I going to bang this one out in 20 minutes, right? But I ended up with this, and I'll read it now instead of explaining it for everyone in advance.
Okay.
The Flower Duet. The first time I heard it, blooms flooded my brain. I was thrown into a snow globe of sakura, laying down to let the cherry blossoms bury me. Some sheet music comes with its own scent. Every note is a rose, no matter which way it's bent. And these two women singing of white jasmine and blue lotuses as though the duet of a single mind, the right and the left and the rhyme when both of my hemispheres align.
Well, beautiful poem, beautiful music in that too, Katie. The
Thank
Flower
you.
Duet.
So this is it. Do you know this at all? I mean, you've heard me listen to it, but do you know that?
I don't.
So
No.
this is from an opera by I'm gonna say his name terribly. I know he's French, so I shouldn't say the S at the end. Delibides. I really should know how to say it. But the opera is Lakme, and I know you've heard it before because it's used in so many commercials and everything, or like really poetic scenes in movies. They'll like bust this one out.
Oh yeah.
And so you've definitely heard it before. But I don't know. I was happy with starting at the place of just the piece of music itself, and then arriving at the idea of that's what we're trying to do when we write.
Yeah, yeah. Well, great ars poetica too, and the way the music blooms, the same
Thank
way
you.
poetry blooms.
Thank you.
All right.
You
so
also didn't have much time to write today.
I did not,
so
but
I'm
I'm working on this new project, so it's kind of like jumping
See,
in and
this
out
is
of
where
river.
the
It's
projects
nice.
are. Crystal's amazing projects. Your amazing project. I need a project.
That's true. Yeah. Well, it took me a long time to find a project that I liked enough. Hey, we
Yeah.
got to scooch over just a little bit. I forgot to. In all the fumbling
My
of
hair
the.
is very big tonight. I feel like it's taking up more of the camera than normal. Okay.
Oh wait, no, it's the other way. It's the other way.
We're
okay.
having some rough
We
times.
are, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway. Yeah. So. Yeah.
So your poem.
My poem.
What do you have for us, Tim?
Is this? So I'm once again going to the alliterative verse is the form in this form, and so this is a stack of LPs from the '60s. Okay. At first you fear those thin few notes aren't music from the marquee marching up from hidden speakers under the hallway's handrail, but instead are chimes chosen for the chutzpah of an absent wind. How they wind their way through holy tones like heaven's hemlock stealing your breath, while briefly buoying that sense of sadness inside every simple song. Fool, he'd mutter, fold her all as he found a way to hide his heart with a swipe of a hand. How soft he'd hum. Only the hairs in his nostrils would give it away. Only the gray stubble on his chin would shiver as he shifted the Chevy. But grief is a goblet half full of glass. It never matters how much is missing. And when it breaks into bits so small you think now they can be swallowed. The record spins and you remember that you remember. That is a stack of LPs from the 60s.
I love the glass goblet line especially. And then I'm curious too, as you write more alliterative verse, are you going to speak more naturally in alliterative verse? Because that's exciting for me.
Well, we'll find out. I don't know. You tell me. You can.
I will. I'll just record you if it's happening and then I'll share it live.
That sounds like a good plan. All right. Yeah, so that was mine. Let's see what everybody else has for us. Let's start with Carla Schwartz to lead it off.
Hey,
Carla. Great to see you.
So this is a ghazal, and I'll get right to it.
Okay.
The map of music. The mapping of notes to chords, chords to intervals, stacks on the mind. Intervals to progressions, progressions to numbers, to the map of my mind. As music theory, as number theory, as counting, as jumping, as building, as tearing down, as starting over, as drawing from the back of my mind. What is composition but translation, transformation, transposition, the writing down of notes, the pouring out of what's in the mind? Rainy day portable 45 players dancing the gym floor at lunchtime. Baby love, stop in the name of love, the love you save. What jags up the mind? Rock and roll, baby. She loves you. Yeah. Yesterday, Blackbird, Tom Lehrer. Who got the bomb? Who's got the bomb? Feel the earth move. You've got a friend. Math on the mind. Piano dropped, guitar picked, best friend duo, talent show. Down in the easy chair, no separation, music, singing, playing, math, songs, poetry, fast on the mind. Rolling Thunder, Hunter Thompson, Rate, Floyd, Airplane, Starship, Live, Stoned, Stones, Zappa, Coltrane, Miles, Rollins, New Wave, Jazz on the mind. Songwriting days at a jazz or blues jam, sit in the back of the room, pen in hand, write to the beat, to the tones, the shrieks, to the rhythm of lines attacking the mind. Brebner, Mazzoni, Divine, almost a whole band. Conway, Sandman, another. Musical artists who drew me in, sadly gone now, but not from mine. Shuffled music in my ears as I swim the ponds, the lake. Don't you want to hear nothing but nature? I beat my strokes to the beats of songs splashing in my mind. Does the music ever leave you? Even when you walk a trail in your own silence, the music of quiet, the music of all living things forges a swath in your mind. Poems, poems, poet, convince me. Where's the music? Lose the meter, find it. If not your heart, then let your breath catch the reader's mind. Oh, and the music of marriage, you and I, we sing off key, discordant, then find our harmonies. Harmonics, ukulele, it doesn't get better than that in our minds.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for sharing that, Carla.
Yeah, and a musical form to fit the musical prompt. Thanks for sharing a guzzle. It's been a while since we've had a guzzle in the prompt lines, right?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Keep feeling better and everything.
All right, thanks, Carla.
Thanks, Carla.
Yeah, that was Carla Schwartz with the map of music, and it was quite a map of music from going through all the different using the guzzle form. Let's go next to Dick Westheimer.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Dick, great to see you.
Good to see you. Just a little note on our poetry space, which was just such a wonderful conversation with Rick Lupert. I was at a reading last night where a reader got up and read for 20 minutes. And the convener didn't have the capacity to get the hook. So perhaps I can get him to listen to our podcast.
I hope so. For anybody that missed us, the poetry space, we talked to Rick Lupert, the Cobalt Cafe host, who's had Hemant Malik and some of the other Prompt Lines regulars on too, who's a great host himself. And we did try to troubleshoot troublemakers. But I'm sure, Dick, it'd be hilarious as if you tried to read a 20-minute poem right now. Do you have it in you?
I am ready to go. But wasn't Rick was just a mensch. He's such a good guy and has such a really generous spirit for how he convenes spaces.
Yeah, he's really wonderful. He's a very warm person and he's an excellent host. So, yeah.
So I wrote, I think, a villanelle, and I posted it on the prompts, and I gratefully got Chelsea McClellan's help in sort of
great.
getting a little bit closer to having some rhythmic continuity to it. So
wonderful.
I appreciated that. This is called I Am the Tune I Long to Be. All the songs I hear, I want to play along, even before I grabbed a guitar and learned to strum. All I've seen or heard has seemed a song. I never recall the lines and mostly get them wrong. I try to catch the words, but just like mice, they run. Still, all the tunes I've heard, I want to sing along. Woody, Otis, Bill Monroe, all could make the dawn blush. Trees and rocks and bees hear them and thrum like me. All I've seen or heard has seemed a song. I learned some chords and notes and toked some strong weed. I played until my fingers bled so I'd become all the songs I hear. I'm sorry, I wanted to play along. My guitar is close by and listens. It belongs to the world of shamans and mages. It's my magic wand. All I've seen or heard has seemed a song. I am a hack, a pretender. I often play the wrong notes, but so do the wren and wind and all this broken world. But the music I hear wants me to play along. All I've seen or heard has seemed a song.
Well, that's really beautiful, Vin. I love the refrain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to confess, too, when I assigned this prompt, I was hoping that people would turn to form, because the music in form and the refrains often, has that quality that's something else. So I'm pretty happy 2 poems in, getting a guzzle and then a villanelle. So.
Well, it was not, it was not intentional, but there's something about that first line, all the songs I hear, I want to play along, that said, oh, there's some work to do here. There's lots of words that rhyme with along. So let's see what happens. And it seems like the repeating refrain really matched how I felt in this one.
Yeah.
Well, great.
Well, beautiful. And I still am envious of your jamming on the guitar as much as
I know.
as well as you
I'm
do.
taken back to your Rattlecast episode for anyone that missed that, where you played for us.
Yeah, everybody go find Westheimer's Rattlecast.
It was so nice. I feel like, would it be cheating if I was like, you literally have to write a song for the prompt and play a musical instrument? I feel like that's not fair.
Next week, let's go for it.
All right, a ballad prompt. I hear that coming
Serious
up.
ballad. Okay.
All right.
Okay,
Jared Campbell said short show. That'd be a short one. All right. Thanks, Dick.
Yeah, thanks, Dick.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Dick Westheimer with I Am the Tune I Long to Be. Let's go next to Christiana Doucette.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Christiana, great to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm joining the form train also.
Nice.
I wrote a sonnet. So
Great.
A little
Not
song.
too long.
Perfect.
Yeah, great.
and I'll just jump right into it.
Okay.
This is To Scale. I learned piano as I learned to read. The letters, notes, and tones between the two were building blocks I couldn't make full speed, too heavy for my hands, chords placed askew. I wondered at the stories others told in watercolor notes and charcoal sketch. But awe turned awful when I tried to hold their visions in my own. I couldn't stretch my hand to those octaves, couldn't make the leap to land the craft. I plodded slowly on with tired head and hands. The way was steep, the timing hard, but steadily skills drawn along, block walls built homes for growing dreams. I see the future forming, and it gleams.
Well, wonderful use of rhyme in that. I loved all those rhymes running through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're really enjoying it.
I did start learning the piano when I was like 6 years old. At the same time I was learning how to read, and my brother was 4 and he started at the same time as me. And I've tried to do that with my kids too. As they started to learn to read, they also have started piano at the same time so that they have that building block thing, because I feel like that is a good blending of when to start those skills.
Well, that's interesting. Maybe we should be trying harder on the piano with Charlotte.
Yeah.
She's
Well-
there right now, and consider that. How neat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Christiana.
Thank
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a great sonnet by Christiana Doucette. And next, let's go to Amanda Harris.
All right, so I had a lot of fun and decided not to draw on my background as a music major at all in this prompt. So I'm a totally different camp from everybody else here. All right. Listening to Eminem on the way to school. Political correctness is a monster untamed, says the voice on the radio. If political correctness roars, then being politically incorrect has heat and fangs. I was about 12 when I discovered being politically incorrect. The boys loved to wear baggy clothes and mouth words to things my middle-class private school self couldn't understand. Will the real Slim Shady please stand up? The radio hissed, a sign of disrespect. A year later, I joined the Goth Kids, a group that treated hip-hop as a foreign continent.
Well, nice. Unexpected as always, too, Amanda. I thought you were going to go to the Beatles because we know you love the Beatles.
Yeah, I did not go there.
Well, you always keep us on the edge of our seats. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much,
Thank you.
Amanda. Yeah, it was Amanda Harris with listening to Eminem on the way to school.
We should make that dream a reality.
We definitely should. Just hack the school bus radio for them.
We already listened to Thrift Shop on the way to the thrift shop.
That's perfect.
Macklemore, but
All right, let's go next to Sean Evaningo Sanders.
Hello, it's been a while.
hi,
Hey,
great to
Sean.
see
Yeah,
you.
great to see you.
Well, this was a fun prompt, and it reminded me of a recent conversation we had with our neighbors, and they told us that they never ever listen to music. They don't like any kind of music, and
Really?
I can't imagine living like that.
Wow.
So I kind of used that as my prompt for this kind of freewheeling jazz type of poem.
Cool.
Less narrative, more experimental.
Well,
so.
great.
When my neighbor tells me he and his wife don't like music, I feel the need to make them understand what they're missing. Cue music. Stop. Not that saccharine bubblegum pop emo rant diary drip mindless mainstream. Instead, let the magic of chaos find her asymmetrical synchronization with your mind, heart, soul being until you hear the sound that invites your goosebumps to let loose and party on their own cosmic plane. Bass, keys, horns, drums, pluck those strings on the low, down deep. Reverb, reverberate me. Tickle those ivories into a staccato submission. Blow that trumpet so electric that dizzy gets dizzy. Fizzle that hi-hat with your salty syncopation. Brush those skins until I blush. Yeah, baby, it's jazz. It's poetry. It's a polyphonic invitation to love, leap, learn, to lean into what's possible when you unleash the rhythm. Don't you see? This is how you get free as a dandelion seed grooving on a summer breeze.
Well, very cool. After the Eminem, too, we get a very performance
What
poem.
a journey. I know.
Yeah.
I feel like we were just all in a jazz club together for like a couple minutes. How fun and exciting. And I think this is going to change your neighbor's mind and you have to report back. That's homework. I think it should.
Yeah, he's kind of a curmudgeon.
Well, thanks so much and great to see you again, Sean.
Good to see you too.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Yeah, it was Sean Evaningo Sanders with when my neighbor tells me he and his wife don't like music, I feel the need to make them understand what they're missing.
I wouldn't know what to say if they said that, the neighbors.
I just back
It's like
away.
a good quality in a neighbor, but also scary, right?
Scary,
Good
yeah,
quality,
yeah.
but bad.
Okay, no offense to anybody who doesn't like music, but
I'm
maybe.
okay offending them.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
You can like any kind.
Let's go next to, let's go to Nivedita.
Hello.
Hey, Nivi.
Hey, Nivi.
Hi. How are you guys doing?
I'm great. Great to see you.
Good to be back. I hope you're feeling better, Katie.
Oh, I am. Thanks.
Great. So mine's not about any particular musical piece because I think, as I've mentioned before, in India, our everyday hymns, prayers, everything is in the form of music. So it's literally something that we grew up with, have been listening since birth. So this is just a short, gentle piece about the impact of music on my life.
Great.
And it's an alliterative verse. Melody of my life. Music moves me, a gentle tide, like whispers woven into a weightless wonder. Rhythms ripple through restless veins, like echoes echoing through endless years. These notes nurture nostalgia, softly stirring melodies, molding memories into moments. Now, in silence still, I sense its song, a sacred symphony shaping my soul.
Well, that's how I want to bring a literative verse back, and that's how it's done, by having other people write them too.
Yay!
Yeah.
Way to go, Nibby.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
that,
I think
Nibby.
it just fits this theme better.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks so much for sharing that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yep. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was Nibby Karthik with A Melody of My Life. Let's go next to Shivpreet Singh, an actual musician in the
Yeah,
house.
that's
So I'm
exciting.
curious to see where Shivpreet goes. Hey, Shiv, how you doing? Oh, got to unmute.
The stakes are raised. I'm a musician, but I'm not sure if I'm that good a poet. But I tried this.
Oh, that is not
No,
definitely.
we all read your poem
Yeah.
a week and a half ago.
Yeah, that is
2 weeks ago.
that is a scratch stop thing.
Yeah, no, we
No.
have to interject. Point, Shiv.
False.
So thank you, Katie, for this opportunity, because I'd been working on this poem for a couple of years, but I think it's close to done now. I'm only reading the first of 2 pages.
Okay.
The poem is "You're Not Music Alone," and it's dedicated to my friend Jeremy Mariah, who plays the saxophone with me. You're not music alone. I curled through the Oakland maze, 8 directions pulling like open tracks across the Pacific. Now a few notes brass out from the stereo, hit me in your raspy voice, waterslide me beyond the ocean of time zones. You're not music alone. I remember those fall nights, our first meeting, then the long honeymoon. You wear a sari of satin tracks, dance like goddess Parvati, circle a silent Shiv, snakes hissing at his throat in harmony with your double-piped drone. You're not music alone. And even now I see your origin, a serpent of gold coiling Jeremy's neck. But the spell breaks as Billy Collins poisons my mind on this podcast, describes how the British pronounce saxophone as if it had something to do with sex. You're not just sound that comes from the saxophone. You're not music alone. You're danger. And now a truck honks behind me like 108 trumpets. I get it. You aren't just air. You miss someone who wants to hear you. So I U-turn from the amusement park of the Bay Area life and drive back home. You're not music alone.
Yeah, well, I love that refrain running through beautiful music in that poem. Thanks so much for sharing that.
Thank
And
you.
I look forward to reading the whole poem in submissions. And this is a good opportunity to remind people you can submit whatever length poem you want to prompt poem of the month submission. So I'll get to read the second half later. So I'm excited.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thanks,
yeah,
Shiv.
definitely. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Shiv. Yeah, well, that was Shivpreet Singh with "You're Not Music Alone." And let's go next to Nancy Tennell.
All right. Well, another musical poem. It's a form, but it's not as all-encompassing and lofty as some of the others we've heard tonight. I went back to the simplest of music, a lullaby.
Oh, nice.
Let's sing the world a lullaby. Music brings comfort when things are wrong. Ask any child who has fallen asleep while their nana sang a la-la song. Burundi drummers play all night long to remind their people not to weep. The music says to them, you are strong. Monks call to prayer by striking a gong to signal a tradition that they must keep. Like Nana's call to sleep, her la-la song. Flamenco dancers chatter and stomp with their feet. Duende, emotion expressed in turns and leaps. Music sometimes brings fire instead of sweet. The world's rhythmic pulse has carried us along, the rhythms of each culture throbbing for eternity. Music can bring comfort when things are wrong, if the nanas will sing their la-la songs.
Oh, what a sweet poem.
Oh, I want a la-la song right now.
Well, there's a story behind that. My grandson, well, all of my grandchildren, I have sung just rhyming. I mean, not rhyming, but just singing those little syllables, la la, and adding a phrase now and then. Nana will sing you her la la song. Aww. And my 4-year-old grandson, we were sitting on his front porch. It was the middle of the day, and the other grandmother was holding him on her lap. And all of a sudden, he turns around and says, Nana, will you sing the la la song?
Aww.
I said, well, okay. So I started singing it, and the other grandmother, who cannot match pitch or carry a tune, plus I'm making it up as I go along anyway.
Right.
So she starts singing along, and he just looks up at her and he says, be quiet. So it's the ultimate soothing. And all the music I've experienced in my life, one of my favorite things is a la-la song. We all need them once in a while.
Oh, what a great story. I love that. Well, thanks so much for sharing that.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah. Nancy Tanell with that la la song.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, I'm back. I'm cool.
All right. Well, next let's go to Michelle Rosario.
Hi.
Hi, Michelle.
Hey, Michelle. Great to see you.
Yeah.
So, I just have a poem about music because I love music, and music has always been so important to me. And it was a connection that I had with my mom. My mom loved music as well. So even though I was born in the 80s, but I listened to a lot of older music because of my mom. So here's a timestamp of my memories.
Aww.
I don't remember when I first met you. For as long as I remember, you've been here with me. On a warm laundry day between the washer, the iron, and the board, as my mom and I listened to George Michael and Luis Miguel. On a cold fall evening, when I tucked my mother in for the first and the last time, choosing I wish it would rain down instead of in the air tonight. On an afternoon after high school, while shuffling homework, white rice and despair, as I discovered, do you know what I mean? And the melody of hope was mine again. On a summer wedding we attended, and my husband and I danced to the tune of that song, Amaze, neither of us knew, even when we were both grieving and tender. I could go on forever, for we, my friend, have been together, even as others have abandoned me, even when I have abandoned myself. Oh, melody, music, symphony, and song, with your many tones and your many tongues, I cannot thank you enough for what you are to me, the reverberation of my life, timestamp of my memories.
Yeah, well, sweet recollection there. Thanks so much for sharing that, Michelle.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Have a good night. That was Michelle Rosario with Timestamp of My Memories. Next, let's go to Odd Writings, a.k.a. George Pastana. I'm curious to see the music of George. With Odd Writings, he's got to have some odd musical taste, I would imagine.
I hope so. It'd be really disappointing if he's like listening to the just
Taylor
mainstream.
Swift.
No, that's not. I like Taylor Swift.
No, I like Taylor Swift. But that would be the oddest thing for Odd Writings to love.
That's true.
Anyway.
How are you, George?
Hi, all. Thank you for all the comments there. That's kind of interesting. Okay, so I'll say something about the rhyme scheme that I use. Any drummers out there? Well, like myself, I was a drummer for at least 25 years, up until last year. And any drummer will recognize the rhyme scheme as a paradiddle. So paradiddle is you go right, left, right, right, left, left. or the other way around with your hands. It's one of the
interesting.
rudiments that you use to practice.
Really interesting.
And so
Sounds
I
like
made
a
the rhyme scheme.
Nintendo cheat code.
So I made that. So the rhyme scheme follows that, right?
Uh-huh.
A, B, or it follows the rhyme scheme. So I'll go ahead and start reading it.
Okay.
All right. On the end of the keeping of time, escapement of the heart, lachesis of the beat, measuring each part, pulsing at the start, pacing at the feet, patterning the art. Clothos spins my seat, Atropos repeat. What you call a throne, I would call a stool. Cracks within a bone, that I call my own. Play the king or fool, seed the wind has sown. Chaos seems the rule, Chronos kind and cruel. Cause the crowd to smile, getting for their sake calluses to file. Giving all the while, sleeping or awake, all that I would style, what is worth the ache, until I break.
And then I think we have a photo of
Oh my God, that photo is amazing too. Look at that. That's you drumming.
Yeah,
George
George rocking it out.
That's me way back. So anyways, that's my poem. So thank you.
Well, what an awesome way to approach this with the actual rhythm of your music and how you're used to. That's really fascinating. How cool. Well, you lived up to having a cool take on the prompt, even with that level of intro. So thank you, George.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks, George. Yeah, and it is fascinating. I do wonder, why we don't, or another thing that we should explore more as poets is musical times.
Yeah.
Like thinking about haiku is that with how it's actually 7 or 5/7/5, but of 7 sort of length, 7 own measures.
Yeah.
And then having the silence in the shorter lines. That whole thing, we never do anything with like time.
Yeah, it's really
in poetry
interesting.
and
yeah. Well,
so
we're doing it tonight, or at least George is.
George is for sure. Yeah, that was George Pastana, aka Odd Writings, with on the end of keeping time. No, on the end of the keeping of time, which sounds like a Metallica song.
Oh my gosh, it so does. Wow.
All right, let's go next to Jared Campbell.
Hey,
Hello.
Jared.
Hey, Jared, great to see you.
Good to see you. Yep. So I saw this guy at the Nelson Atkins Museum this weekend, and thought I would write some words for him to sing.
Okay.
And I don't play the guitar, but I used to sing a lot when I was younger, so I thought that was good enough.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Love song for solo tenor. On nights when stars are winking like fireflies in a jar, in time with what I'm thinking, and the notes from my guitar, I can't but see the cables linking star to star. Constellations, all they are is wishful thinking, like the chords from my guitar. Look up. The shining avatar of all my wishful thinking is asking questions from afar. Answer, while the moon is sinking, the cries of my guitar.
Well, that's beautiful. I love the Avatar guitar rhyme, first of all.
Yeah.
But then, too, that reminds me so much of our cowboy poets issue. We have a bunch of folk singers. I mean, the whole idea of cowboy poetry is it's like poetry recited out on the range and, accompanied by guitar very often. So that issue was really fun. We had some poets who were, guitar players and folk singers, and a really cool issue in that regard. Kind of takes me back there with that one. Thanks, Jared.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jared Campbell with a love song for solo tenor. And next, let's go to Rob Harris.
Hello.
Hi, Rob.
Hey, Rob. Great to see you.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
I'm just gonna say I took this in a different direction. I hope it's acceptable. But
we always love different directions. Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, you're about to get one. I wrote a tribute to rock and roll, the music that I grew up with, and I wanted to honor the recently departed Ace Frehley, who was the lead guitarist for Kiss, who was the first band that I ever saw live in concert. I think I was maybe 13 or 14 at the time. So I rewrote one of the songs that he wrote for the band. It's a song called Cold Gin. I don't expect there's a whole lot of Kiss fans here, so I figured the only way to get this across was to sing it. So I have this lined up as karaoke. I'm gonna. Gene Simmons sings this song. Ace didn't feel like he had the vocal chops to do it, but Gene doesn't sing the song. He just kind of snarls it in a very like contemptuous way. So this is going to be snarled because I can't sing. I'm not going to try to sing, but I am going to try to snarl.
All
So
right.
this
Okay.
is
Well, this is a first too.
rock
A lot
and
of firsts
roll.
today.
It's called a tribute to Ace Frehley. I'm ready when you are.
Yeah,
are
go
the
ahead.
words on the screen? All right. If you've heard the song, great. If you haven't, just kind of imagine. Just roll with it. Okay. Here
Okay.
we go. This is the intro. Ready? All right. Oh, sorry. Here we go. Rock music's great, and I'm so grateful. It makes me sing, and it ain't hateful. The guitars play when the drums are crashing. And rockers are the height of fashion. Here comes the verse. It's rock and roll for me. You know it'll always be. It's rock and roll for me. You know it's the only thing that I want to listen. A little bit of intro here for the next verse. So this one's, there we go. Okay, second verse. Here it goes. I first tuned in the days of disco, when my Sharona made my hormones flow. The Stones, the Doors, and of course Led Zeppelin. They played the songs that I grew up with. Last time, and I'm done after this. It's rock and roll for me. You know it'll always be. It's rock and roll for me. You know it's the only thing makes me want to listen. R.A.P. Ace Frehley, 1951 to 2025.
Oh, well, that was fun. Thanks for sharing
was.
that. I love the my
saw
Sharona made
some
my
laughter
hormones
there,
flow
which is-
line. That's a good one.
It comes from the heart. What can I say?
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, there was Rob Harris's tribute to Ace Frehley, set to Cold Gin by Kiss, which we're gonna have to listen to after the show, for sure.
And think about how these lyrics were way better.
Definitely.
Obviously.
Definitely.
Don't even have to hear it to know.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, Rob. And next up, let's go to Matt Joseph.
Oh.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Matt. Great to see you.
Yeah.
Great to see you as well. I failed at doing something musical, so I was considering singing, but now Rob's saying I won't do it. I can't top that. So
yeah, it's impossible to
top. I'll just chop that. So I'll just jump right in.
Okay.
So driving to a cross-country meet, I hear AC/DC's Jailbreak. I remember the snap of the Walkman's headphones over my 9th grade ears that until that moment had bathed only in the normie, foamy middle of my FM dial. Huey Lewis, Michael Jackson, and sometimes, when I felt dangerous, Def Leppard. Because what was cooler than a band with not one, but 2 misspelled words for their name? Listen to this shit, said the senior, pressing play. With the same crooked smile Satan must have saved for Jesus when he was chilling in Gethsemane, listening to the latest Sumerian pop. And just like that, Angus Young's opening guitar lick knifed into my head, blowing my skull up from the inside. Blood, brain, and bits of bone coating the plastic seats of our Chevy van. Then Bon Scott started singing, his acid wine slithering from the twin foam discs, no longer speakers, now portals to a dimension of chainsaws and rattlesnakes. And by the time he snarled that his friend made it out with a bullet in his back, I'd been reassembled, sort of. My cranial fragments jigsawed together, my scarlet eyes shoehorned back into their raw sockets, and I was able to take in all anew the passing Michigan countryside, where barbed wire mannequin forms writhed as roadkill possums capered at their feet, while bats big as vultures scooped flittering killdeer from the evening sky, because enough already with all that cheery goddamn chirping. And in that moment, I was at once older and lighter by a few years and ounces, some parcel of my breath fleeing my chest, lying in the baked ryegrass on the side of the road to this day, still wondering if I'll ever return to reclaim it, wondering why I whooped and hollered so loud as we drove away into the long Midwest dark.
A powerful memory pulled up there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah,
you should listen to that song sometime.
It
was life-changing for me, I'll just tell you.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Well, we have a whole playlist
Thanks,
as we eat dinner later.
We need it.
The AC/DC.
I should have gotten everybody together before we read, and we could have had we could just have the playlist.
We could have bought the rights from ASCAP.
Yeah, sure.
Played all the songs.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was Matt Joseph with Driving to a Cross-Country Meet. I hear AC/DC's Jailbreak. All right, next let's go to Stephen Croft.
Hey, Tim and Katie.
Hey, Stephen, good to see you.
Thank you. I viewed a Rattlecast maybe a couple years ago where you, Tim, talked about how touchy the use of lyrics are. So I won't read or try to sing these lyrics. I'll just pause a little over them.
You can sing them. Don't worry about it.
We want you to sing them.
No, really.
No, don't.
They're not. I think you might be misremembering. The thing is, people are worried about sharing them, but you really don't have to. I mean, what you have to worry about is the actual music and melody. Like the algorithms will pick that up right away. So music in the background, if my daughter was start blasting Kiss or something, it would pick that up in the background maybe. But as far as including lyrics and poetry and stuff, just there's too much ado about it. Feel free to say them. Feel free to read them. It's all okay.
Well,
it's all fair use. It's the five factors of fair use.
Which also, too, I should say, Stephen, since that was a couple of years ago in the Rattlecast, we did an episode or 2 episodes actually on the poetry space about fair use and copyright stuff. So you might find that interesting.
And no one sued us yet. So
no one is sued. Do not say that. It sounds like you're tempting.
I don't want to be the one that gets Rattle cast.
No, you definitely won't. We just can't do, we just can't play music at all. And then all that happens there is they put ads in your stream.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right. So I will be bold then.
Okay.
And,
great.
At least hum them. Okay. This is like the universe was singing to me directly, a quote from Bono and a fan letter to the Beatles. Pop music makes minor gods, people's people, Rolling Stone, Billboard, with tricked out fashionistas telling us their origin stories, struggles to success. The best of them can touch our souls, sing to us directly, excite, inspire, lift us up, lift us higher. Your love keeps lifting me higher, higher and higher. 4th grade, saccharine falsettos of the Bee Gees make me look at the radio. Something wonderful is coming out of it. Girl in my class goes to the movie with her mother, so I ask mine. John Travolta, sleek as a cheetah, enchantment of motion. In my early adolescent daydream, I slip into his white dress suit, not shy, undulating. The girls in my class swooning. Night fever, we know how to show it. 8th grade, barefoot in my local library, swim trunks still wet from surfing all morning. Walkman turned up too loud probably to Bob Marley. The voice that transports me at that young age with hope and belief that good is good and good can triumph. the only voice that's magic, like the ocean I lived in then, like the time a dolphin appeared in a wave beside me, surfed with me like a friend, Marley's voice, a gift like that. Rastaman vibration, yeah, positive. Live if you want to live. Iraq, VBIT explodes, its instant burning wind, felt so much as heard, sick feeling in the gut, knowing like ESP, like Newton's laws, someone is dead. 5 that day, my unit's 27 that year, hundreds from other units in my camp. But at night, her gentle croon in my CD player, Natalie Merchant in my bunk with me, saying life can be sweet, breaks the chain worry. I tell you, life is sweet. In spite of the misery, there's so much more. Be grateful.
Yeah, well, great way to tie music to tragedy and trauma.
And that last stanza. And it's interesting too, because it feels Haibun-like, even though of course there's song lyrics in between, not haiku, but it has sort of the space around it, gives you the time to like digest the song lyrics and interact with it yourself and how you feel about that song.
Yeah,
that's really
does. Interesting use of form.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that gives me a special gold star because I know that Rattlecast loves Haibun.
It's true, Stephen.
Yeah. And I'd also say that when I was in Iraq, Natalie Merchant's music was so soothing for me that I wrote to her by email, and her assistant, Miss Sperry, emailed back and said that Natalie wanted me to know that she read my letter and she hopes I would be safe in Iraq. And so,
Well, that's really nice to hear because I'm a big fan of Natalie Merchant too, and now I can like her even more. So.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. That was Stephen Croft with "Like the Universe Was Singing to Me Directly." Yeah, and that's Bono quote, which is interesting.
Yeah,
did you say Bono?
I think it's Bono.
Bono, okay. Bono quote. Anyway, let's go next to Carolyn Codd.
Hi, Carolyn.
Hello.
Hey, Carolyn, great to see you.
Hi. Yeah, good to be here. And I've been feeling, I had surgery back a month or so ago, and I've been feeling better. So I got to go out to a marvelous pipe organ concert. And it was so good. It reminded me of many, many years ago. I got to hear Virgil Fox play at Carnegie Hall, and that was a really terrific concert.
Wonderful.
And that reminded me of another outstanding concert. And then right after that, I saw the prompt about music. So I had to write this about this other concert. And it's called Transported. And it's actually I think it's kind of musical sounding. It's more based on rhythm, and it's actually it turned out to be kind of a limerick, I think. And it's in like kind of in waltz time, like 3/4 time. So Transported. At Rutgers, I went to a concert of an orchestra proceeding from Prague. The last piece was their national anthem, which they played with great gusto and passion. We all applauded and cheered. That music transported me so that I never felt prouder to be Czechoslovakian. And then I have a little kind of haiku. Good news, music helps. The return of my muse.
Oh, well, that's wonderful.
Well, full of happy news right now from reporting Carolyn Codd. That's great.
Yeah. So happy to hear that, Carolyn. So glad you're feeling better, and really, love being transported there with you with the poem too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was Carolyn Codd
Bye.
with Transported. Next, let's go to Tina Deniclaw.
Hi, Tina.
Hey.
Hey, Tina, yeah.
Yeah, I'm so busy writing a note to Carolyn. Hopefully I'll be able to finish when I get down. So, yeah, these are just really great. I really enjoyed them. And so this one's a little different. So, my brother passed away decades before he should have. So this is I might have a hard time getting through this. So.
Well, if you struggle, I'll pick it up for you. Okay, so don't worry.
So, thank you. Because I thought, well, maybe if I talk about it, I won't cry.
Right.
I don't know what. Okay, the record player. Okay. I sit on the floor with my brother. 2 years to his 4. Final 45 strewn about, gifts from a family friend. He plays each one on a grown-up stereo set on the floor. A large brown box houses both turntable and speakers, with open weave fabric covering the front. See this needle? It fits in the bumpy grooves on the record. When the needle moves, it makes sound through these wires. Repeating Dad's words. He holds up one record and points. The grooves are here, but we can't see them. Listen to this song. And now this song. And this one. Do you hear how they are different? Of course they were different. They're different songs, but that's not what he means. Through the years, I turned the pages on his piano bench. In college, discrete notes written by a grandmaster coalesce and rise above him like the specter of a living soul. Do you hear how the songs are different? At 2, I nod and make him smile. But it's not true.
Yeah, what a sweet memory. How music brings it all back too.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. I wrote a very short version of this many years ago, and it got lost in an old computer, and I never tried to recreate it. And I think this one turned out okay.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you did.
It was meant to be a longer poem, and you found it.
Yeah.
So, Thanks,
Yeah.
Tina.
Thanks, Tina.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was Tina Dennettclaw with the record player. Next, let's go to Chelsea McGlynn.
Hello.
Hi, Chelsea.
Hey, Chelsea. Great to see you.
I'm going to turn off my video, actually, because I have terrible service right now.
Okay.
And I'm going to sing my poem because it's a song, and I'm very nervous about it, so I logged in late, so there'll be less people on the prompt line.
Aw. You'll be great. We're excited.
But we all do know everybody watches forever.
Oh, great. Everyone's going to watch it tomorrow. So I'll be embarrassed tomorrow. And it's very heavily inspired by The Guest House by Rumi.
Okay.
Winter Wind. I've had my fill of grief. I'm finally listening to the raging wind inside. Let it howl, let it wail, let it blossom to a gale, and remind me I'm still alive. Now I won't be shutting doors or closing up the blinds when my winter wind arrives. Let it sweep into my home, ripping letters, ripping poems, away from my own bedside. If the words from out my mouth chills your bones or makes you sigh, that's just your winter wind's arrival. Let it storm, let it gust, let it blow away our soul dust. We need it for our survival. Let it in and let it through. It can't hold on to me or you. It's final.
Chelsea, you have such a beautiful voice.
Yeah, you really do. That was beautiful, Chelsea.
You-
Yeah. And I love the melody of that song too. So you wrote the melody as well as the lyrics?
Yes, I wrote the melody and the lyrics. Yeah, and I have a friend who does songwriting, and we've been trying to collaborate on writing songs together. So.
Well, that is beautiful, and the voice is beautiful too. I really love that. That was
nice. You have a very dynamic range from the prompt poem winning of the month to being able to sing so well. So that was really all about birds, and you can sing like a bird too. So that's wonderful. Thank you, Chelsea.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that was Chelsea McGlynn with Winter Winds. And then last, I believe, on the Zoom, but not least, speaking of prompt poets of the month, it's our reigning prompt poet of the month, Chelsea McClellan.
Aha.
Yeah, look at how that works out.
Oh,
Hey,
nice.
Chelsea.
Hi, Chelsea.
Hello.
Yeah, great to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great to see you too. I wasn't gonna share this because music really doesn't make an appearance in the poem per se, but what I was thinking about was the way music through my life has been a regulating, calming force and to help me focus.
Yeah, well,
And
let's hear it. And you
so-
might want to cut off the video because it's low bandwidth too tonight.
Oh.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Yeah. Well, whenever you're ready, go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. I shot an arrow once. The arrow disappeared from sight, the target blurring into light. People streak and my time sneaks away while the coaches soft critique. I shift a foot. I think I might make a bullseye now, despite the inexperience and slight rebellion in my new technique. The arrow disappeared. Under a bush, I spy its white, a crushed and rusty watch. Its slight, the clock still ticking, its oblique answers to the time I seek. Its hands not pointing or contrite. The arrow disappeared.
Well, beautiful music for sure in that poem,
Yeah.
Chelsea. Yeah, I loved all the rhyme and the meter too.
Yeah. Thank you, Chelsea. I hope you're enjoying your time as the reigning prompt poet of the month. You know, doing some events, kissing some babies' foreheads, that kind of a thing.
I'm sure if you need anybody to help with handling media requests, you're on your own. But it's great though.
Yeah. Thanks, Chelsea.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
Yeah, it was Chelsea McClellan with I Shot an Arrow Once. And I believe that's it for the Zoom. Let's see. Yep, we got everybody.
And Brian was here and said he's
Oh.
unable to read, so I was going to ask
Oh,
if he
okay.
could read his poem. He bowed out early. but
Gotcha. Okay, I didn't
He's
see him
definitely
there.
around, which is the rule.
Okay, so here's Brian O'Sullivan's poem. And yeah, if you're around and can't make it, we're definitely happy to read as long as you give it an attempt here. And Brian was here. Let's see. The Who?
Question mark.
Question mark is Brian's poem.
The Who?
The Who? Okay. So here's Brian's O'Sullivan. The Who? What kind of music you listen to determines what kind of person you are, said my big brother Kevin, his mandarin orange blaze invisible below. Staring at the shadow blue ceiling just above my top bunk, I frowned, hand over mouth. I, precocious and nothing except being weird, wondered if he meant who you are determines what kind of music you listen to. I asked, but he told me to zip it. The point was, I should love Led Zeppelin. I did not like them.
I did like them.
I did like
Sorry.
them. Sorry.
Interject.
Yeah, that's an important one. Sorry.
Sorry.
I did like them. I did like them. The moonrise poetry of them, the riddles of the stairway, but the thump, thump, thump of their beats was a lot. And could I live up to being a Led Zepp guy? Or did I need some muscle and a coat of facial hair first? It was a conundrum, which was nice because I had just learned that word.
That's a great line.
I would always have trouble answering, what kind of music do you like? It was too big a commitment, like deciding between formal verse and free. Later, much later, over bourbon at Fergie's pub, Jen told me, if I could be anything, I'd be a bluegrass woman. That night, we listened to Mandolin Orange singing about wildfire, and I thought, I like the kind of music I listen to with you. Aw, it turns
what a sweet
very
turn.
sweet at the end.
Aw,
That
that's
is
really
sweet.
nice.
Funny and sweet. Doesn't get better than
Yeah,
that.
That's Brian's specialty.
Definitely.
Too.
Yeah. That was Brian O'Sullivan with The Who.
The Who?
Yeah. I guess you have to say it every time.
I know because you always say it like it's
The
something
Who?
question. The Who?
Okay.
Brian is now annoyed that he asked you. No.
Well, I saw a video change. I thought maybe he popped on. It was out of the corner of my eye, which is what distracted me.
Oh, okay.
And then I inserted a word for no reason. But...
It's okay. You did great. I can't cold read poems. I find it extremely difficult. So.
Yeah, well, thank you. Okay. So let's go to Ted Bernal-Guevara's poem. Now, Ted says the word emptying is in my accessory toolbox. I've used it at least half a dozen times in poems, always trying to make it a noun. Okay. Well, here we go. Silence harassing music. Okay. Silence harassing music. Wires of my headphones are long in this emptying. Peace is deafening. I have to muffle it amidst this emptying. In my room, self-esteem ties my wrists, my anxious hands, it shackles movement, habits. For she has minted final this emptying. Doors are slammed, abandoned, time is creeping by. I must think. For deceit pounds within closing walls, my ears longing in abrupt emptying. I've grown callous, have taken melody for granted. It was in me. I had it in my grip, fail-safe from this, such emptying. Reenactment I hang on to, but she has rescinded purpose. Nowhere bound, hinted Nashville. I rush to maps, routes, days, latitude, go after her aloft, emptying. Lyrics revisit, held back of their meaning, meted from promise seal. For sound had left this vacant fruit on the table, sliced by this emptying. I am destined to black from a background of blue. I hammer hard, nail deep in this outro of hushed emptying. A pin may drop in a valley of begs. I throw apologies. You've said that before. They slip off like rings, snag echoes, delay this emptying. Wires may stretch far, connect to the switch of a song undistorted. It is hers, whirling in solution, funneling this coda, punishment, this emptying. Well, great use of the ghazal. The refrain really runs through really well. Thanks for sharing that, Ted.
Thanks, Ted.
It was Ted Bernal-Guevara with Silence Harassing Music. And now that's going to wrap up the prompt lines for this week. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And now we're going to close out like we always do with our haiku for the week. And what have you got for us there, Katie?
All right. I have... Are you going to put it up on the screen?
I am, yeah. I just wonder if you want to introduce it at all or just
okay. Well, this one is... So I'm trying to make it based on little things we do. And as I already managed to mention during the show, we went thrift shopping yesterday, which is fun. I love going to thrift stores. And I was kind of thinking about why do I love thrift stores so much? It's not just the great prices, you know? Mm-hmm. And then I was thinking about it and this kind of popped into my head.
All right.
Buying the never-ending story at a thrift shop.
Ah, that's great. Yeah, I really love that.
Thanks. And I didn't actually buy it there.
I was going to ask. That was my follow-up question.
No, but I'm creating that world. We watched the Never-Ending Story a couple months ago with the kids, I think. But it is. I really actually played around with this more than I usually do. I think my first draft was a monoku. And it was just more about the idea of I think part of why I love secondhand stores and thrift shops so much is it feels like you're not letting that item go to waste. It is now part of your own story, doomed or to whatever end that may be. But that box I bought yesterday, it is now in our bathroom. It could be there for 30 years.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, so I think it's exciting. I don't know.
Yeah. You know, this is a total tangent, but this reminds me, I forgot to tell you this. So I was looking at that same DVD shelf, you were off looking at women's clothes or something at that point.
Yeah.
And one of the movies was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I love that movie.
Yeah,
have you seen that?
Movie. Yeah, it's a great movie.
And I thought, I wonder if Katie's seen that. We should buy it. There was wait a minute, we don't have a DVD player. How do we play it anyway?
I couldn't
but
buy
no,
that.
this is the thing. And then I got home, today, I turned on the computer, and every Facebook reel that I have to scroll past to get to whatever is for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I didn't say it out loud.
You didn't tell me.
I didn't tell you.
You had your phone in your pocket.
My phone was in my pocket. I didn't say it. I thought it. How? What?
Well, I'm excited to watch that again.
That is creepy, but that's a great movie,
weird.
though.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's your haiku?
Okay, so my haiku is so we've been trying to keep these plants alive.
I'm really I like to consider myself very good at everything domestic but plants, and I'm sorry to disappoint.
So the truth is, I think, is that Katie overwaters.
Because I think I'm underwatering. Like, maybe they want a little more. Maybe they want...
and I forget to water, so I underwater. So as our worlds combine, maybe we can find the balance is the thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying, and I think it was something that Dick Westheimer said. It really was. It was. About his wife. I don't know if it was in a poem or he just mentioned it, like feeling the dirt. So I Googled that a while ago. And I was like, why would you feel the dirt to tell? So now I'm walking around feeling all the plant dirt. Like every day I walk around just like, oh, does this feel?
See, I'm not willing to commit to that.
I know.
Extent.
I want to keep these things alive.
I want you to also. Thank you.
So here is my haiku based on that. There we go. Feeling the soil for what I don't know. Or feeling the soil for what I don't know. There you go. That is my haiku for this week, and that is the show for this week. Thanks, everybody, for a wonderful one. It's been a lot of fun, especially to Katie Dozier, our co-host here.
Well, thank
on the
you,
prompt
Timothy
lines.
Green.
And what's your prompt going to be next week, Katie?
My prompt is going to be one of those illustrious double duty type prompts.
Nice.
So we are going to invent a form that borrows something you love about an existing form. So an example of something that I might mean that's a bit obvious would be like, you like sonnets, you love the volta. You managed to maybe, I don't know how the volta could possibly come at the beginning, but the volta comes at the beginning or something like that. But some actual aspect from an existing form, but spins it in a new direction. So this is going to require us to look more at form, which is really exciting. And then to think, this is what I love about it. What can I do that's more me? Is what everybody is, I'm hoping, looks at. So the way it's double duty is that everyone is also encouraged to submit the poem that you write to our call for invented forms, which is the tribute section, which isn't due until January 15th. And that will be the summer's issue. We'll have the tribute section to invented forms, because I think it's a really cool, exciting one and a real opportunity to leave your stamp on the poetry world, too. Come up with an amazing invented form and title it maybe your name. I don't know.
Definitely. But definitely, it's going to be fun doing an invented forms issue. And I have to say, Lester Graves Lennon, we interviewed him in issue number 50. He's now in our fantasy football league.
Oh, yeah.
Which I have to check to see if Katie beat me tonight. Probably did.
I did.
But we interviewed him in Rattle. He's been on the Rattlecast. And the reason he appeared on my radar is because I kept getting these Lennon lyrics. And I was like, what the heck is a Lennon lyric? So I looked it up, and then I was like, oh, I got to talk to Lester about this Lennon lyric, and we ended up interviewing him for an issue, and he was a great friend in poetry. But yeah, so, and he specifically said, I guess is the point, that he wanted to invent a form with his name on it so people would get to know his name.
Yeah.
And it totally worked.
Oh, smart. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, invent your own forms. It's going to be a really fun issue of invented forms in the summer. People can make up whatever they want to do and then explain it, and then maybe that can take off and be the next sonnet or golden shovel.
It's exciting.
Yeah. All right. So the guest for next week is going to be J.R. Solange. Now, J.R. is just one of the best poets who I know so little about. He's very seemingly reclusive. He was kind of hesitant to be on the show, if I can be honest.
Interesting.
I asked him 2 years ago, and he was like, I'll think about it. And then I never heard back, which is rare. I followed up, and he was like, okay, we'll do it this time.
I'm intrigued.
But yet, he's written some of my favorite poems in Rattle. The Lover of Stone is one you should look up. That's a great one. Yeah. A whole bunch of great poems, including we got one the current issue, and we accepted one last week too for a future issue. He's author of 40 books of poetry.
That is a lot of books.
I know, and the most recent one is Barren Road. So I'm really excited to learn more about him, explore more of his poetry, see what makes him tick, because he's a good one.
Good.
Yeah, so that's next week's guest, J.R. Solange. The prompt once again, invent a form that borrows something you love about an existing form, but spins it in a new direction. That's your prompt. That's your guest. Rattlecast number 316 next Monday, November 3rd, the regular time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Hope to see you there. Hope you have a great week in the meantime, and we'll talk to you later. Goodbye.
Good night.